Welcome back, all of you. So, let us begin our session with the pranam mantras as we do every session. So, the prayers will be displayed on the screen. So, all of you kindly join your palms and repeat after me the pranam mantras. Let's dedicate this session to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON, and my beloved spiritual master. So let us begin with the pranam mantras. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyat Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Tvishe Namaha Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagadhitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Hare Krishna. So in the previous session, we had discussed about the last section of chapter 7. So Krishna had left this chapter 7 with very interesting terms, which he had mentioned in the last verse, that is 7.30, where he said, Sadi bhutadi daivam mam, Sadi yagnam chaye viduhu, prayana kale pichamam, te vidhur yukta chetasaha. So, Krishna had explained that those people who are in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation, the of the demigods, and all the methods of sacrifice. So for Adi Bhuta, for Adi Daiva, and for Adi Yagna, the Supreme Lord is the governing principle. And such people can actually understand and know me. And Krishna is also saying that prayana kale. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death, these people, even at the time of death, they will not forget Krishna. They know exactly who Krishna is. Why Krishna is saying Prayana Kali? Because at the point of death, it is going to be very difficult for us to remember the Lord. Very difficult. Death is not an ordinary thing, right? So that is a very painful situation for those who are in the material consciousness of life, those who are having that bodily consciousness of life. Material pain is very difficult for them to bear at the time of death. Very, very difficult. So, what is death, by the way? And why Krishna is talking about death here? Why is he mentioning Prayana Kale? Because this has to trigger some questions in Arjuna's mind. Why? Because Arjuna is going to be witnessing a lot of deaths. And who knows? I mean, at that point of time, Arjuna also will see that there is so much of fight going on, and it is very much possible that even he may get injured and he may face death. So he is actually on a battlefield. The war is about to begin. So Krishna has talked about Prayana Kale. So what will happen at the point of death? So if such people who are conscious of Krishna at the point of death, then they will also attain the Supreme Lord. So now, what is death? Because for many people, death means okay, there is a body, there is a soul, and the soul leaves the body, and moment the soul leaves the body, that is death. There are another class of people, basically those who are following the Sankhya. So they say that okay, death means that all the various elements in our body, the body is composed of so many different elements, and all these elements at the point of death will disintegrate and they will merge into their respective elements, the universal elements, and that is how that is called death. So all the elements, they come, they manifest, and they unmanifest, and that is called death. So Krishna is saying this prayana kale. At the point of death, somebody has to be, I mean, each one of us has to be conscious of Krishna. That is very, very important. So, from the Upanishads point of view, why Upanishads point of view? Because Gita is also called Gita Upanishad, and this Adi Bhutam, Adi Devam, and Adi Yagnam, all such terminologies are very extensively used in the Upanishad. So, from the Upanishad point of view, death means or at the time of death means basically it is called something like the avabhrata snana. Avabhrata snana means generally at the end of every yagna, whenever there is a yagna that is performed, at the end of yagna, there is something called as avabhrata snana, which means there is a kalasha. Generally, in the yagnas, there will be a kalasha which is filled with the sacred waters, very powerful sacred waters in which the devatas, the Lord, are all invoked. Many times in big festivals, if you go to Tirupati or any major festival, big festivals like Brahmotsava in the temples, you will see there will be a lot of kalashas, and the kalashas generally have the sacred waters. And at the end of this yagna or the ceremony, the festival, this sacred water is sprinkled upon all the all the devotees that have assembled. So this is avabdita snana. So this life that we have now, and this life that we are leading in this body, is a yagna. The life that we are leading in this body is a kind of yagna. Actually, our whole life is supposed to be a sacrifice, an yagna. So when we perform yagna through this body, so at the point of death, what happens? Avabrita snana. At the end of sacrifice, at the end of yagna, what happens? Avabrita snana. So that is like that avabrita snana, where we have to remember Krishna, take that sacred name of Krishna, and then go back to home, back to Godhead. So this is very, very important. So now, Krishna, when he is talking about this Adi Bhuta, Adi Devam, Adi Yagnam, so this is something new that Arjuna has learned now from Krishna. So now, with this, there are some questions that are arising in Arjuna's mind. And that is where is the beginning of the next chapter. That is the eighth chapter, Attaining the Supreme. So this is very interesting, where Krishna is going to answer the questions of Arjuna. So let us see what are those questions of Arjuna. So Hina Mataji, you can unmute yourself, and let me add Kaushik also to the stream. Okay, so let us chant this very first verse of the eighth chapter today. It's very interesting. Arjuna Uvacha
अर्जुन उवाच
Kim Tat Brahma Kim Adhyatmam
किं तत् ब्रह्म किमध्यात्मन्
Karma Purushottama
किं कर्म पुरुषोत्तमा
Adibhutam Cha Kim Proktam
अधिभूतं च किं प्रोक्तम्
Adidaivam Kimuchyate.
अधिदैवं किम उच्यते.
Let's chant the second verse also because they both are connected. Adiyagnam katam kotro
अधियज्ञं कथं कोत्र
dehesmin madhusudana
देहेऽस्मिन् मधुसूदन
prayana kale cha katham
प्रयाणकाले च कथं
heyosi niyatatmabhihi.
जेयोऽसि निय आत्मभिः.
Wonderful. So please read the translation of both.
Arjuna inquired, O my lord, O supreme person, what is Brahman? What is the self? What are the fruitive activities? And what is this material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me.
Wonderful. Please read the next translation also.
Who is the Lord of sacrifice? And how does he live in the body, O Madhusudana? And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So very
Prab-
interestingly, here Krishna is now listening to these questions of Arjuna, and Arjuna has asked 7 questions here. So, beginning from Kim Tat Brahma, what is this Brahman? Kim Adhyatmam. So, what is this Adhyatmam? Kim Karma, what is Karma? What is Adibhutam? Then Adidaivam, Kim Uchyate, what is Adidaivam? Then again he's asking what is Adiyagnam. Oh, then he's addressing Krishna as Madhusudana. Then Prayana Kale Chakatam Gneyosi Niyatatmabihi. So, what happens at the point of death? How one should act at the point of death? All these things have been asked. So, totally 7 questions have been asked by Arjuna here. So, let us understand this one by one. It is very, very interesting. Kim Tad Brahma. So, basically, Kim Tat Brahma means it is asking about the Brahman Swarupa, the nature of the Brahman. Brahman means what? Basically, trying to understand what is this Brahman, the nature of this Brahman. And please understand, this question is being asked in the 8th chapter, in the beginning. Now, there are a lot of people today who speak about God, and there are a lot of people who are trying to understand God. They want to hear about God. So, there are people who talk about God and they want to listen about God, but you see, they don't understand the principles that have been actually explained in the first 7 chapters. So, Arjuna is asking the nature of God in the 8th chapter. After understanding so many different aspects of spirituality, like who am I? I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul. What is karma? What is not karma? Right? What is jnana? What is vijnana? What is yagna? What is not yagna? All these different things have been explained in the previous chapters, and all these things have slowly brought Arjuna to ask this question about Brahman or about God in the 8th chapter. But unlike today's so called spiritualists, most of them who don't even understand the basic fundamentals of spirituality, they try to talk about God, and ultimately it is simply waste of time because they don't understand the true nature of the Supreme Personality of God. They don't know the Swarupa, Brahman Swarupa. That's why Kim Tat Brahma, Arjuna is asking, what is this Brahman? How do we understand this Brahman? So that is why all these seven questions are very, very important. And in this chapter, eighth chapter, Krishna is going to explain all these different questions of Arjuna. This is very, very nicely explained. And if we want to understand these things, then we should be understood from the proper scriptural understanding, especially from the viewpoint of the Upanishads also, because whatever Krishna is going to speak is Upanishadic language. And although we don't have to understand Upanishads, but Bhagavad Gita, we should know that it is non-different from Lord Himself. And Lord, whenever He speaks from the scriptures. He Himself is the one who manifests the scriptures. So He's going to explain everything very neatly, very beautifully. So basically, Arjuna has asked, Kim Tad Brahma, Kim Adhyatmam, Kim Karma, Kim Adibhutam, Kim Adidaivam, right? And then please explain to me. And Krishna, not just that, Arjuna is also here addressing the Lord as Purushottama. Purushottama means the topmost personality. So he's not simply talking to a friend now. Oh, Krishna, oh, my dear friend, nothing like that. Arjuna, with lot of awe and reverence, with lot of respect, he's addressing Krishna as Purushottama. So that means he understands that position of Krishna is supreme, and only such a supreme personality can actually clear my doubts, right? So that is why he's addressing Krishna as Purushottama. And then also, in the second verse, if you say Dehesmin Madhusudana, in the first verse he addressed as Purushottama. In the second verse, he is calling Krishna as Madhusudana. Why Krishna is called Madhusudana? Anyone remembers? We had explained this in the previous sessions also. In the early sessions, we had discussed about this Madhusudana. Why is Krishna called Madhusudana? Anyone knows? Why is his name Madhusudana? Anyone? What is Madhusudana meaning? The meaning of Madhusudana. Dev, you know, Kaushik. Dehesmin Madhusudana.
Hare, Prabhuji, Krishna had destroyed the demon Madhu, and hence he was called Madhusudana.
Ah, exactly. So there was this demon called Madhu. So because Krishna has killed this demon Madhu, his name is Madhusudana. So why is he addressing Krishna as Madhusudana here? Because now Arjuna has doubts, and doubts are like demons. So Krishna is being asked to kill all these doubts, these demons inside our mind. Many times these doubts create a lot of problem, havoc in our life, because they are acting like demons. Demons what? Their duty is to only give trouble to people, right? So when there is a doubt in our mind, it disturbs us. The doubts create lot of anxiety, and there is no clarity in life. That's why we become very disturbed by these demons. So we have to finish these demons. The doubts have to be cleared, and that's exactly what Bhagavad Gita does. When you actually read Bhagavad Gita, understand and hear Bhagavad Gita, what is happening is we are killing the demons in our own mind. All these doubts which are there, which are creating confusion in our life, will be killed by Madhusudana. That's why Arjuna is addressing Krishna here as Madhusudana. So now we have got this idea why he is being called Madhusudana, and now Krishna is going to explain all these things one by one. So, Kaushik, you can unmute yourself and let's chant the third verse.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Let me add to the. Okay, ठीक है. श्रीभगवानुवाच
श्रीभगवानुवाच
अक्षरं ब्रह्म परमम्
अक्षरं ब्रह्म परमम्
स्वभावोऽध्यात्ममुच्यते
स्वभावोऽध्यात्ममुच्यते
भूतभावोद्भवः करो
भूतभावोद्भवः करो
विसर्गः कर्म संज्ञितः.
कर्म संहृतः
Once again, श्रीभगवानुवाच
श्रीभगवानुवाच
अक्षरं ब्रह्म परमम्
अक्षरं ब्रह्म परमम्
स्वभावोऽध्यात्ममुच्यते
स्वभावोऽध्यात्ममुच्यते
भूतभावोद्भवः करो
भूतभावोद्भवः करो
विसर्गः कर्म संज्ञितः.
विसर्गः कर्म संजितः
Okay, wonderful. Please read the translation.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the indestructible, transcendental living entity is called Brahman, and his eternal nature is called Adhyatma, the self. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma or fruitive activities. Hare Krishna.
Very nice. So, Krishna is saying the transcendental living entity is called Brahman, and there is Parabrahman also. So, let us understand Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. The Lord is now answering the questions of Arjuna one by one. So, he's beginning by saying Aksharam Brahma Paramam. Aksharam. So, what is this Aksharam Brahma or Parama Akshara? Parama Akshara actually refers to Lord Narayana. Lord Vishnu is called Paramakshara. Riche Akshare Parame Vyan. The scriptures say also that Om Akshar Ambara Hriday, which means that Akshara actually refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is Narayana or Vishnu. Akshara, Kshara. Shara means what? That which ends, that which comes to an end is called Kshara. This body is Shara. But Akshara means that which is not going to end, which will always exist. That is Akshara. Just see, Aksha. Aksha means senses. The Indriyas are also called Aksha. Akshara means the Supreme Lord who cannot be conceived by these material senses is called Akshara. So Akshara has so many multiple meanings, you see. So Akshara means that which does not end. Akshara also means that which cannot be conceived by these material senses. So knowing the Lord, understanding the Lord, who is Akshara, makes us also Akshara. What does that mean? It means that we will become Akshara by understanding Krishna. How? Because we becoming Akshara means we will actually lose this conception of body which is always going to end. So we will get liberated. So once we get liberated, then we will also become Akshara. So by understanding Akshara, we are also becoming Akshara. Just see. So that is how the Lord reciprocates. E yata mam prapadyante. So if you understand me as Brahman, as the Paramakshara, then accordingly I will reward you and you will also become Akshara. You will also become eternal. We are already eternal, but this concept of death and everything will automatically go. We will become liberated. See, that is why we should understand all these things in reality, in truth. Many times when we are dealing with people, we actually get affected by the qualities of those people, right? The guna of that person influences us. Now we associate with good people, then the good influence will happen. If we are associating with the wrong people, then all the wrong influence is happening. So right, we acquire those qualities. The kind of association that we have, it actually influences our consciousness. But the Lord, who is within our heart, he is constantly associating with us, and we are actually now having this material consciousness. Does it mean that the Lord will get affected by the material consciousness that we have? No. The Lord, who is although there within our own body, with each one of us, He is existing in this material body, He will never get influenced by this material energy. The Lord is Swarat, He is controller, He is Ishvara. He controls the material energy, but He never gets affected by the material qualities, the material gunas. And that is why He is called Akshara. He cannot be influenced by the material qualities. That is why He can also be called as Paramakshara. He is not simply Akshara, but He is Paramakshara. We as living entities, Jivas, can be called as Akshara. But the Supreme Lord is Paramakshara. He is the Supreme Lord. What is Akshara? Before even understanding this meanings that we discussed just now, what was your understanding of Akshara prior to this particular discussion? Anyone? Akshara. According to you, what is Akshara? You have heard this word, no? Akshara or Akshara. Akshar or Akshara. You must have heard this before. What does it mean? What comes to your mind when you hear this word Akshara?
A
Anyone?
letter.
Letters, exactly, alphabets, right? हाँ मुझे ये अक्षर आता है वो अक्षर आता है right? We all have studied different letters, alphabets in our schools. Actually, we begin our school by actually learning these different alphabets, akshara, right? So, actually, each letter is meant to glorify the Lord. Every alphabet is actually meant for the glorification of the Lord. But then what happens in our modern education today? Instead of glorifying the Lord, we are not glorifying the Lord. We are again and again only focusing on the material concepts of life. How does our education begin? How do we learn our alphabets in the school? A for apple, B for ball, C for cat, D for dog. You see, this is our modern education. We want to connect the alphabet with something which is mundane, which is something material, right? This is how we learn. So the child, from the childhood, when it is learning this akshara, these alphabets, what is happening? It is forming an image. A means apple, B means ball, C means cat. This is exactly what is happening in the child's consciousness. But the Lord is akshara, means, and all these aksharas are meant for what? Glorification of the Lord. Each and every alphabet is supposed to glorify the Lord, right? So that is why in the Vedic tradition, in the Vedic culture, if you see, the Gurukuls, they never taught alphabets like the modern education system. It was very different. In the Sanskrit, there are this Sanskrit Swarakshara, the basic first letters, Swara Aksharas, which are called as aha. All these things we have heard, right? So each word is actually, each alphabet, each akshara is representing a certain form of the Lord. Aja is one of the name of the Lord. Aja is one of the name of the Lord. Ananda. E, Indra. E, Ishana. U, Ugra. U, Urja. R, Ritambara. Re, Riga. Ri, Rija, Riji. A, Ekatma. I, Aira. O, Ojobrata, Au, Aurata, Aum, Ananta, Aha, Ardhagarbha. Ardhagarbha, Ananta, Aurata, these are all different names of the Lord. Then these are the Swaraksharas. Then there are Varigya Vyanjanakshara. What are those? We have this Ka, Cha, Ta, Tha, Pha. There each one of them they have five variations. Ka, Ka, Gha, Ga, Na, Cha, Cha, Jha, Ja, Na, Ta, Ta, Dha, Da, Na, Ta, Ta, Dha, Da, Na, Pa, Pa, Bha, Ba, Ma. Right? We have studied all these different alphabets. So each one of them again represents the different names of the Lord. Ka, Kapila, Kha, Kapati, Khapati, Ga, Garudasana, Gha, Gharma, Na, Nasara, Cha, Charvanga, Cha, Chandogamya, Ja, Janardana, Jha, Jatitari, Ya, Yama, Ta, Tanki, Tha, Tharaka, Da, Daraka, Dha, Dhari, Na, Natma. Then there is Tha, Tara, Tabaha, Damaha, sometimes it is called Dandi also. Then Dhanvi, Namya, see? Then there is Pa, Paraha, Fa, Fali, Ba, Bali, Bha, Bhagaha, Ma, Manuhu. Now, you must be wondering that all these different aksharas, where do they exist? Where are all these different forms of the Lord exist? Right? See, in this universe, everything exists. Brahmanda. Universe is called Brahmanda. There are so many rivers, there are devatas, there are different planetary systems. All these things which are there in the universe are also existing in the Pindanda, in this body. So there is Brahmanda, there is Pindanda. So everything that exists in the universe should also exist within us. So these different forms of the Lord that we just discussed are there in the universe. They're also within us. These different forms which represent all these different aksharas are actually within our joints of fingers. The finger joints are all, we are able to move these fingers, both the leg fingers and the hand fingers. The joints that we have in the fingers are all enabled by the different forms, these different forms of the Lord. Don't think that this body is simply constructed automatically. Everything is controlled by the Supreme Lord. And all these finger joints are actually representing these different forms. So then there is Avargya Vyanjana Akshara. So that is also there. Avargya Vyanjana Akshara. What are those? Yara, Lava, Sha, Sa, Saha, Sha, last time. What are those? Ya, Yagna, Ra or Ra, Rama, La, Lakshmipati, then Va, Varaha, Sha, Shanta Samvita, Ksha, Shadgunaha, Sa, Saratma, Ha, Hamsaha, La, Lalukaha, and then Sha, Lakshmi Narasimhaha. So all these different alphabets that are there in the Sanskrit language, which begins from A and which ends with Sh, A, Ksha, Akshara. Akshara means what? All these 50 alphabets or letters that we have are all representing the Supreme Lord. Each and every letter in Sanskrit is representing the Supreme Lord, one particular form of the Lord. And just imagine if our children, we had learned the language like this, the alphabet like this, then every single letter we can glorify the Supreme Lord. This is how education was designed, that every word, forget about every word, every letter that you utter is actually meant to glorify the Supreme Lord. Right? Then every word, then every sentence, every paragraph, everything is actually meant for the Supreme Lord. That is Akshara. This is the meaning of Brahman Aksharam, Brahma Paramam. Just see. That is why the scriptures, now in the Vedas, there are so many things that are being explained. Some directly glorify the Lord, some indirectly glorify the Lord. And that is why, because there are certain indirect ways of worshipping the Lord, then Narada Muni instructed Vedvyasa, you have been describing the Lord in so many direct and indirect ways. You actually never glorified the Lord directly. That's why you should write the Srimad Bhagavatam. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, what happened? Vedvyasa, every word is actually glorifying the Lord. It is dedicated to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. That is why it is said in the Bhagavatam, Nigam kalpataroho galitam phalam. Nigam kalpataroho galitam phalam. Shukhamukhadamrita dravya samyutam. पिबता भागवतो रसमालयम् मुहुरपि रसिकाः भुवि भावुकाः निगमकल्पतरोः गलितं फलम्. So that is how beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam is. It is Galitam Phalam. It is the ripened fruit of all the Vedas, because every word, every letter of Srimad Bhagavatam, if you utter and if you chant and if you glorify the Lord, is meant for the glorification of the Lord. And just by listening to Srimad Bhagavatam, our heart is purified. That's why Srimad Bhagavatam is called Amala Purana. Why? Because it is only talking about Aksharam Brahma Paramam. So the Paramakshara is being glorified in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is where we should understand this beautiful thing about Aksharam Brahma Paramam. What is Krishna talking about this? Aksharam. Why is he talking about Akshara? This is because Akshara represents the Supreme Lord. So if we had learned all these things in our childhood, then believe me, the whole society would have been a different society by now. If you really want to bring a lot of peace and happiness in the society, the Vedic tradition, the Vedic way of education has to be reintroduced. Only then you will see automatically the roots are nourished, and automatically the whole society will grow in a very nice Krishna conscious way. They'll become peaceful, very happy automatically. So this is where the Brahman aspect is being addressed. And now kim adhyatmam swabhavo dhyatmam uchyate. Adhyatmam, basically adhyatmam here also refers to the three aspects of our existence, like the deha, indriya, and antakarana. Deha means this body, and indriya, the senses, and antakarana, the inner voice that we have, the antakarana, the intuition, you can say. So these things, swabhava also refers to the jivatma. So swabhavoho dhyatma uchyate. So all the living entities, the Upanishads, again, the word swabhavaha refers to the the living entities. Swabhavo dhyatma uchyate. So all that is required for the jiva is being provided by the Lord. What are those? Deha, Indriya, this Antakarana, everything is being offered to us by the Supreme Lord. So here in this particular context, Adhyatmam refers to these three things. Basically, that is Deha, Indriya, and uh, the Antakarana. So Prabhupada in the purport also is very nicely explaining to us a few things about this. There are a lot of things explained in the scriptures, but in Chandogya Upanishad, Prabhupada says it describes about the Vedic sacrifices, which comes to the understanding of. Let me come to that point. Yeah. Prabhupada is saying on the sacrificial altar, 5 kinds of offerings are made into 5 kinds of fire. There are 5 offerings which are put into kinds of fire. What are the 5 kinds of things that are being conceived? Prabhupada says the 5 kinds of fire are conceived of as the heavenly planets, the clouds, the earth, man, and woman. And the 5 kinds of sacrificial offerings are faith, the enjoyer on the moon, rain, grains, and semen. So let us understand this. What is happening? Prabhupada is very beautifully explaining. In the process of sacrifice, the living entity makes specific sacrifices to attain specific heavenly planets and consequently reaches them. So, if anybody wants to go to a particular planet, he has to perform that particular yajna and he will be able to go to that particular planet. So, when the merit of sacrifice is exhausted, the living entity descends to earth in the form of rain. Oh, see what's happening? So you go to the planets above, and when that merit is over of the sacrifice, you have to come back to the earth. How you come back? In the form of rain, Varsha. Then takes on the form of grains. So the living entity comes in the form of rain, then falls onto the ground, which is then absorbed by the plants, and then you will be put into a grain. Then the grains are eaten by the man, and then which is transformed into semen, and then which is impregnated into a woman. And thus the living entity once again attains the human form to perform sacrifice and so repeat the same cycle. So there are 5 types of these fires are explained: sacrificial fires and sacrificial offerings. So when this combination of sacrifice is done of all these different varieties of things, then what is happening ultimately is we are performing pious activities, but ultimately we are still stuck into this material cycle of birth and death. So that is why Prabhupada is saying this Krishna conscious devotees, they don't get into these kind of sacrificial things. They directly perform the supreme yagna, the supreme uh, service to the Lord, and which is the topmost yoga, that is that loving devotional service to the Lord, and through that yagna, they will escape this cycle of this whole birth and death. So, kim adhyatmam, then kim karma. Krishna is also, Arjuna has also asked about kim karma in the previous verse. So Arjuna is getting the answer now. Krishna is saying, Bhuta bhavot baho karo visarga karma samnitaha. So what does that mean? It means that Bhuta bhavot baho karo. So now, when the Lord creates, He creates the living entities, He also creates this material world. So there is matter and there is this living entities, all that is being created by the Lord. So, Bhuta Bhavot Bhavokaro, this creation of the Lord, this material manifestation is representing karma. Prabhupada is saying in this particular context, Visarga, Sarga, Visarga. So, Sarga means creation, Visarga means that creation which is created by the Lord is called Visarga. So, that Krishna is referring to here as karma. Karma. So, that is what is being told here. So, now, seeing Kim karma is over. So, these 3 things have been addressed here. So, now let us try to understand. Oh no, not just that. Actually, Kim Adi, there are so many things. Kim Karma is done. And then after Kim Karma, in the next verse, in the 4th verse, exactly, that Krishna is going to answer a few more things. Okay, let's go to that point now. Yes. Ashutanji, you can unmute yourself and let's chant
Hare
this
Krishna.
to us. Just hold on. Yeah. Adibhutam sharo bhavo bhavaha
Adibhutam Sharo Bhavaha
purushascha daivatam
Purushachadi Devatam
adiyagnoham evatra
Adiyagno Ham Evatra
dehe deha pratambara.
Dehe Deha Prathambaraha.
Once again, अधिभूतं चरो भावः
अधिभूतं शरो भावः
पुरुषश्चादिदैवतम्
पुरुषश्चादिदैवतम्
अधियज्ञोऽहमेवात्र
अधियज्ञोऽहम् एवात्र
देहे देहभृताम्बर.
देहे देहप्रथम्बर.
Yes, wonderful. Please read the translation.
O best of the embodied beings, the physical nature, which is constantly changing, is called Adibhuta, the material manifestation. The universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods, like those of the sun and the moon, is called Adideva. And I, the Supreme Lord, represented as the Super Soul in the heart of every embodied being, am called Adideva. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So, here some more questions of Arjuna is been answered. Adibhutam Sharo Bhavaha. So, Adibhutam. So, Bhutam generally refers to the living entities who have a body, a material body, who have a deha, adibhutam. So bhuta means those living entities who have a body are called bhutam. So adibhutam. So all these different living entities, they require a material body. So this adibhutam basically refers to all those people, all living entities who have a material body. Adibhutam. Purushas daivatam. So, Daiva means the Devatas. So, there are a lot of people who worship the Devatas and they derive inspiration from the Devatas. So, such people who are inspired by the Devatas, they are called, they are all represented by Adidhaivatam, different Devatas. There are many people. They go and worship Shiva, they go and worship Indra. So, Purushashchadi Devatam, Purushaha, Puru or Puri. Puri means this body again. Purusha means Puri, again, Puri means his body. So Purushashchadi Devatam. So all those who take inspiration from the Devatas, they are all uh, being represented by Adi Devatam. Adi Yagna, Ham Evatra. So Adi Yagna means the one without whom the yagna cannot be performed. For example, when there is a yagna being organized, there will be a yajamana. When there is a yagna, there is a yajamana of the yagna. That means the main person. But the main person of all the yagnas is what Krishna is saying, aham evatra, aham, I am the main person without whom no yagna can be performed. That's why Adi Yagna is actually referring to the Supreme Lord again. Adi Yagna. Without the Lord, ahameva. Krishna is saying, without me, no yagna can be performed, the Lord Himself. Then, deha pratamvara. So, by doing all these, see, the best of the embodied beings, the physical nature, which is constantly changing, is called Adibhuta. So, that is Adibhuta, that means our body, which is constantly changing. And the universal form of the Lord, which includes all the devatas. So all the demigods, they are represented by um they represent the universal form, the different parts of the universal form of the Lord, and like the sun, moon, Prabhupada is saying. So all this is called Adideva, and I, the Supreme Lord, represented as the Supreme Soul in the heart of every embodied soul. I am Adiyagna. So it is very clear now in the 8th chapter. Krishna is very clearly saying that Aham Eva. So, to everyone, especially the impersonalists who believe that, oh, Krishna is just an ordinary personality, this verse is enough. This verse is telling very clearly, Krishna himself is declaring that Aham Eva, I am that supreme. I am the Adi Yagna. I am the one through which all the yagnas has to be performed. Otherwise, it is not going to be working properly. Nothing will work properly without me. So see, this is very clear. Krishna is establishing his supremacy. Now onwards, you will see Krishna. Of course, last few chapters also Krishna is. He started indirectly saying, then directly saying. Now he will express more and more about himself. As we go forward in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is going to reveal more about himself, many aspects about himself, like the universal form in the 11th chapter. So many descriptions will come there. So Krishna is revealing himself. And in the ninth chapter, which is a lot of confidentiality is maintained, all the confidential knowledge is revealed again. So more and more we discuss now, Krishna is going to reveal more and more about himself, his true nature. Because Krishna, Arjuna has asked, right? Adi Brahman, what is the nature of Brahman Swarupa? So Krishna is going to explain all these things in detail. So these are few things that Krishna has explained. The six questions are being answered. The last seventh question, that is Prayana Kale. What will happen to these people? Prayana Kale, how do we actually attain that supreme during Prayana Kala? That is being explained in the next verse. So there you can unmute yourself and you can actually, let me see. Yeah. Okay, so 8.5. अंतकाले च मामेव
अन्तकाले च मामेव
स्मरन् मुक्त्वा कलेवरम्
स्मरन् मुक्ता कलेवरम्
यः प्रयाति समद्भावम्
यः प्रयाति समद्भावम्
याति नास्ति अत्र संशयः.
याति नास्ति अत्र संशयः.
Once again, अंतकाले च मामेव
अन्तकाले च मामेव
स्मरन् मुक्त्वा कलेवरम्
स्मरन् मुक्ता कलेवरम्
यः प्रयाति समद्भावम्
यः प्रयाति समद्भावम्
याति नास्ति अत्र संशयः.
याति नास्ति अत्र संशयः.
Wonderful. Please read the translation.
And whoever at the end of his life quits his body remembering me alone at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Hare Krishna.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. See, so nicely. So, what happens now to those people who remember the Supreme Lord at the point of death? Krishna is clearly stating here Antakale. If you quit your body, remembering me alone at once attains my nature. So, Antakale cha mam eva. Me alone, mam eva, smaran muktva kalevaram. And then, only when you remember me, yap prayati samadbhava, madbhavam, Krishna is saying you will attain my nature. See, earlier also I told you, if you understand Akshara, you will become Akshara. If you understand the Supreme Lord to be Akshara, you will become Akshara. And that is what is again reinforced here, that if you remember the Supreme Lord at the point of death, then automatically you will attain the nature of the Lord. Madbhavam yati nasti attashamshayaha. Without a doubt, you will acquire my nature, Krishna is saying. What more now? This is so much. It is a very open secret, it is. Open secret. Krishna is saying, see, we're all suffering here. Birth, old age, disease, death, many, many things. One problem ends, another problem will crop up. One problem then again so many problems will crop up. So we are constantly battling with so many problems in our life. We want something that is eternal. We want something which is permanent, that permanent happiness. And Krishna is saying that if you acquire that nature of mine, you will become supremely happy. Why Krishna's nature only? Mameva. Why only Krishna's nature? Because Krishna's nature is what? Sat Chit Ananda. His nature is what? Sat Chit Ananda nature. So if you want to become Satchit Ananda, then just understand the Supreme Lord Krishna properly through Bhagavad Gita. So that Mad Bhavam, what does it mean? Mad Bhava means that Satchit Ananda, which is dormant right now. It's not that you are not Satchit Ananda. The soul is actually Satchit Ananda. But then what is happening? It is covered because of this material body. So now, when you at the point of death, remember Krishna, then it becomes very, very easy to attain that nature. Now, the question may come at the point of death, remembering Krishna is not so easy. If one does not remember Krishna, then what will happen? Right? Okay, you're telling you remember Krishna and you'll go back to him and you'll attain his nature. But what if we don't actually remember Krishna at the point of death? Antakale. So that is also answered by Krishna in the next verse. Okay, so let's see what is the next verse and who is there, who more is there. Let us see. Okay, Vinodji is also there. So let's add Vinodji. So Vinodji, you chant this sixth verse now. So
Hare Krishna.
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam
त्यजत्यन्ते कलेवरम्
त्यजेत ante kalevaram
तं तं एवैति कौन्तेय
tam tam evaiti kaunteya
सदा तद्भावभावितः.
sada tad bhava bhavitah.
Once again, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam
त्यजत्यन्ते कलेवरम्
त्यजेत ante kalevaram
तं तं एवैति कौन्तेय
tam tam evaiti kaunteya
सदा तद्भावभावितः.
sada tad bhava bhavitah.
Wonderful. Please read the translation.
Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail.
Ah, thank you. So, very clearly, Krishna is saying, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, you will attain that particular state without fail. Again, Krishna is saying you will attain without fail. So, we have to be very careful. Oh, yes, Krishna has now told that at the point of death, we have to remember him. And then if we remember Krishna, then we'll go to his supreme abode. We will attain his supreme nature. And that is so nice. So, all my life, let me enjoy all the material facilities. I'm going to do all the nonsensical things. And anyway, at the point of death, when I'm about to die, I am going to use 8.5. Verse number 8.5, I will read that and I will remember Krishna. Antakale, okay, I will then understand Krishna and I'll go back to whom God got it. That is not going to happen. Because at the point of death, when there are so many problems and tribulations and pains that we are undergoing, because death is very painful, at that time to remember Krishna is not so easy. So what we actually get in our mind, the final thought that we are going to get in our mind is only the resultant thought of all the thoughts that we have acquired or we have thought about in our lifetime. So, at the point of death, you will get only the resultant thought. So, when you practice Krishna consciousness from now, then gradually, because you have practiced remembering Krishna, then that will become the resultant thought. Okay, you have acquired so much of, you have practiced remembering Krishna, then finally you'll remember Krishna. But somebody who has only thought about money, 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 then the resultant thought will not be Krishna. The resultant thought at the point of death will be money. And for that, he has to again come back into this life and again take birth and undergo so many different things. Right? So now, if you remember Krishna, you will acquire his nature. If you don't remember Krishna, then Krishna is saying, whatever state of mind you have at the point of that state you will acquire in the next body. So if you are very much attached to your dog, a pet that you have, and then you are remembering that dog at the point of death, then you will become a dog in the next life. Oh, this is all simply some sort of uh, fanatic idea. It is not a true statement. How can we accept this? We don't even believe in such things. Many people will say like that. But a great example is of the example of Bharat Maharaj. The Bharat Maharaj is such a great exalted devotee who was doing so much of tapasya. Then we know that how he got attached to this deer. And then what happened? Antakale, what did he remember? He remembered the deer. And when he remembered the deer, next life, what did he become? He became the deer. He was born as a deer, isn't it? So you'll attain that state without fail. So a man at the point of death, he's very much attached to his wife. He will think of a woman, and he'll become a woman in the next life. If a woman is attached too much to her husband, and at the point of death she remembers him, she will become a man in the next life. So be very careful. Be extremely careful what you think about at the point of death. So, at the point of death, what you want to think, you cannot decide then. You have to decide now. Why? Because we don't know when the death is going to come. So we have to be always be prepared, right? So if we are preparing and we are sincerely putting effort, even if you forget, because that can come suddenly, even if you forget, then Krishna will remind you. Because Krishna knows that you have put sincere efforts. That is the Lord's reciprocation. But we have to put efforts for the Lord to give us that remembrance. Then you have to actually practice sincerely now, not tomorrow, now. We have to remember Krishna, start remembering Krishna from now. Because who knows? We end the session, close the laptop, and then gone. We will just drop down dead. Who knows? Especially now, because of all the situations we see in the world, anybody can die any moment. So we have to remember now, not after 1 hour, not after 2 hours. We have to remember Krishna now. That is so important. Antakale, we don't know when that Antakale will come. Parikshit Maharaj was very, very fortunate enough to know that he is going to die in 7 days. And the moment he got to know, he did what he has to do. He went to Shukdev Goswami, he heard the Srimad Bhagavatam for 7 days, 7 nights, non-stop. He prepared for his death because he was aware that death is going to come in 7 days, but we are not aware. It can come in 7 days, it can come in 7 minutes, it can come in 7 seconds. Who knows? I was just watching this one video recently where, the cameras have captured people dying all of a sudden. They are in the stores somewhere buying something, and all of a sudden they get some heart attack and they drop down dead. Somebody is in the meeting, in the conference, and then tops, they die. I think one more example is Abdul Kalam ji only, a great former president of India. See how things can happen? Any moment that can come. And what if we are remembering something which is not related to Krishna or not about Krishna? Then imagine what will happen. We have to be very careful. So, this is a good reminder for us now. So, what we think at the point of death, what we are going to think or not to think about at the point of death is all very important. So, Krishna is that's why very clearly stating here that if you remember me, you will acquire my nature. If you don't remember me, you remember something else, then you will become that. So, we have to be careful. So, these are some very important things that we should be aware of, and Krishna is now going to slowly explain more about his nature in the 8th chapter and how to attain him. All these details will be explained. So, in this first 6 shlokas, we see that Arjuna has asked 7 questions, and at one level, Krishna has answered all the 7 questions of Arjuna. So, what is Brahman? What is Adibhutam, Adidaivam, Adiyagnam, and Prayana Kale, what happens. All these different things have been explained by Krishna, and next level of understanding will come in the upcoming verses. So, if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask. So, we have covered 6 verses today. So, Hina Mataji is asking, Kaushik, yeah, one syllable, one letter, okay. And then Hinamata Prabhuji, in these verses, can we also understand Atman and Brahman concept? Yeah, so Atma, as we said, that sometimes in the Upanishad language, Brahman is referring to the Atma also. So when only Brahman means it can refer to Jivatma. Parabrahman means the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is Paramatma. So when we just say Brahman, it can refer to Atma also. Parabrahman refers to the Supreme Personality, Paramatma. So when Krishna earlier mentioned about the Parabrahman, Paramakshara Parabrahman, that is referring to the Supreme Lord. But Adibhutam, all these refer to the living entities also. Anybody who has a material body is called Adibhutam. Atman, yes, only Brahman, if you say, if you call Brahman, then it is referring to Atma. Any questions? So this Friday, that is 18th March, there is a Gaur Purnima. So all of you can chant nicely, do nice Sankirtan. If possible, try to visit the ISKCON temple nearby, and then try to fast on that day, understand and read about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And I will also try to make some video on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu if possible, and we can discuss on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than the Supreme Lord, Krishna. And we are all called the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Gaudiya Vaishnava means we are in the tradition of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And ISKCON is also is one of the parampara that has been coming under Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the central figure, is the latest incarnation of the Supreme Lord, who appeared just 500 years ago. The Supreme Lord appeared just 500 years ago. And he is the one who inaugurated this Sankirtan movement. He actually inaugurated the Yuga Dharma. The Yuga Dharma for this Kali Yuga is Sankirtan Yagna. It is actually the chanting of the holy names. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inaugurated this wonderful Yuga Dharma, and we are in the footsteps. We are following in the footsteps of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's a very, very auspicious day for all of us. And this Friday, actually, it is the beginning of the new year for us, actually. So in the ISKCON tradition, actually, Gaura Purnima is considered to be the new year. So our new year begins from this Gaura Purnima. So all of you, please try to chant more, read about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That will be really very nice. So we will again meet, and we will catch up with few more things in the next session, and we will discuss more on chapter 8. So until then, all of you, please complete your sadhana, do your sadhana nicely every day, and we will again meet next Sunday. So please take care. Until then, Hare Krishna. If you have any questions, you can please feel free to ask questions in the group also. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare